Well, I don't know if anybody ever told you, but you're pretty dang good on that piano, Jeremy. I'm really enjoying sitting here listening to you. I had been warned, but it's true, and you're making me feel right at home. Um, when Reverend Janet asked me to preach for y'all today a few weeks ago, um, she had told me that you all were in a big transition, and she really just wanted me to bring you love and peace and something to hold you over in the transition. And I said, all right, I got it. I'm going to preach to these folks about joy. And so our reading today is called Joy by Terry Pahuki. I've been wondering what the morning glories know. Is it envy that compels these vines to strangle other flowers arising in their path? Or perhaps self-preservation to climb these walls, forsaking humbler beings, winding greedy stems around the trellis in their hungry pursuit of light. Still, every morning, basking in their spiral shadows, I want to believe it is something more. This fevered yearning to open purple flowers, yield bold-throated glorias to the sun, and in the blaze of afternoon, curl petals softly into shyness. And every morning, I plead with the dew-moist buds to know their secret joy, to open and close without holding, to surrender all to the light, to sing I am completely yours over and over again. I love that poem. It doesn't have a whole lot to do with my sermon, but it's about joy, so I thought I'd share it with you anyway. Speaking of sermon, here we go. Content warning. It's an important and serious and heartfelt one. That's the truth. I'm going to be sharing a story today that features the use of alcohol. And there's no trauma. It is a story about finding joy, I assure you. The spoiler alert point of this whole sermon will be about cultivating joy in whatever circumstances we find ourselves. And the alcohol part is just an imperfect metaphor and a vehicle to carry the story forward. In this virtual space and the physical spaces that we occupy, there are most certainly people for whom the mention of alcohol will never have the ability to spark joy. Maybe you're sober. Maybe you're considering the possibility that sobriety might be the next right thing for you to consider. Maybe you wish that people who have had an impact on your life and who needed sobriety would have found it. All of those are valid. And I love you, and I know you love each other, and I want you to do whatever you need to do to take care of yourselves, even if that's opting out of listening to another word I say. That's all right with me. Take care of yourselves first, beloveds. Okay. Now that that's out of it. So this 30-year-old single guy gets invited to a wedding, right? He goes and he takes his mom as his plus one, and he asks several of his friends to come too. I don't know if they were invited, but that's how it went. Okay, no, wait. Actually, let me start over for accuracy. So this really nice woman gets invited to a wedding, and she takes her 30-year-old still living at home bachelor son as her plus one. And he invites all his other single dude bros to tag along with them. That's how it really happened. So they get to this wedding, and I'm sure it's lovely. The story doesn't give us much detail, but we know that everyone got through the ceremony and into the reception happily enough. And at some point early in the evening, this party is popping. I mean, it's off the hook, right? There's drinking, there's dancing, probably some ill-advised karaoke, maybe a live band, more drinking and laughing and eating cake and bouquet throwing, and so much drinking. Did I mention the drinking? So much drinking that they ran out of booze. They ran out of booze, and the family of the groom they're like freaking out, right? I guess it was their responsibility to bring the booze. No one's ready for this party to stop, though. But it's also the year 30 AD. I probably failed to mention at the beginning that this is a period piece. But in 30 AD, no one had, a booze procuring app on their iPhone. None of the designated drivers could jump in their SUV to make a wine run. So what are they going to do? Well, what they did was this. The mom of this 30-year-old guy that we mentioned at the beginning. He is a rabbi in training, by the way. Total theology nerd, mama's boy, from what I can gather. She gets this brilliant idea. She's like, hey, everybody, don't freak out. We got this covered because I brought my son. And my son is God's gift to the world. No, really, he is. You don't even understand. She says, and he, my boy, right over here, he's going to fix this very big, very tragic problem in which we find ourselves. Now, she had not, up until this point in the book, been very show-offy. So we don't know how much of the wine shortage was due to how much mama had been drinking, but it might have been a factor. I'm not sure. So the son was like, what? Who is this woman? Lady, you are so drunk. I don't have anything to do with this, people. Nothing to see here. Feeling a little bit out of his element and not sure what to do from there. Meanwhile, his mom is gathering up all the servers, pointing them to her son and saying, see that handsome guy over there? He's amazing and he can fix anything. So I want you to go over there right now. No, really, go. And whatever he tells you to do it. And so they walk over to the guy who's just standing there, a little slack-jawed, with his drunk bros who are probably loving every second of this, egging the whole thing on. And they just look at him and wait for instructions. Awkward. I feel like maybe even the band stopped playing dramatically like they always do in movies, right? When things take a dramatic turn. All eyes on the one socially awkward dude no one really knows. 2 silent, slow blinks. And so finally, he's like, oh, okay, well, this was not in my plans for the evening, but apparently this is happening. So, okay, I don't know. How about you go around and collect all the empty wine bottles and take them to the kitchen? He might have been buying himself a little bit of time. Not sure. So the servers take off and start collecting all of the empty wine bottles. And his drunk jackass wedding crasher friends join to help because that makes this whole thing all the more epic. So the nervous wait staff and the drunk loser friends all get the bottles collected and stacked up in the kitchen. And they're like, okay, phase 1 completed. Now what, boss? And the guy's like, just fill them up with water. Yeah, with water. Maybe no one will notice. I mean, have you seen how drunk these people are? This could work, right? Well, no, probably not. But there's literally not one more drop of booze anywhere. So what else are they going to do? I mean, pay no attention to the ginormous plot hole into which anyone from the wedding party or family member of either of the newlyweds could have just said, yo, we're out of booze, but you drunk idiots have had enough anyway, so let's just keep the party going without it. No one ever says this, allegedly. Okay, whatever. Let's just suspend disbelief and stay with the story because I promise you it's about to get weirder. Because somewhere in between the filling up of the bottles with water and him telling the staff to just say nothing and start serving it, he has done something that nobody saw him do. I mean, we already had a foreshadowing that his mom knew about this trick, right? Because they start pouring this water into the goblets of the guests, and it is not water anymore. It's really good wine. Like, not from a box from Costco. Really quality wine. So good that some fancy, important person who everybody thought was fancy and important starts publicly gushing about how usually they bust out the crappy liquor late in the evening when everybody's already all sheets to the wind. But these people have saved the best wine for last because they really know how to throw a party. And the mom, she's just over at the corner dancing away like I told you so. Now, let me read to you how it was actually written in the King James Version of this tale in Christian scripture, just so you know I didn't make any of this up mostly. The Gospel of John, chapter 2, verses 1 through 11. And the third day there was a marriage in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. And both Jesus was called and his disciples to the marriage. And when they wanted wine, the mother of Jesus saith unto him, they have no wine. Jesus saith unto her, woman, what have I to do with thee? Mine hour is not yet come. His mother saith unto the servants, whatsoever he saith unto you, do it. And there were set there 6 water pots of stone, and after the manner of the purifying of the Jews, containing 2 or 3 firkins apiece. Apparently that's a measurement. Jesus saith unto them, fill the water pots with water. And they filled them up to the brim. And he saith unto them, draw out now and bear unto the governor of the feast. And they bear it. When the ruler of the feast had tasted the water that was made wine, and knew not whence it was, but the servants which drew the water knew, the governor of the feast called the bridegroom, and saith unto him, every man at the beginning doth set forth the good wine, and when men have well drunk, that which is worse. But thou hast kept the good wine until now. This beginning of miracles did Jesus in Cana of Galilee, and manifested forth his glory, and his disciples believed on him. Thus ends the reading of the Christian scripture. Oh, you bet they believed. That was some Penn and Teller, David Blaine, Chris Angel type of mess right there. And to this day, nobody knows how he did it. We don't know. But I have maybe a reason that I really like about maybe why he did it. Let me tell you a little bit about what I believe about this Jesus guy. Because a lot of people believe a lot of things about Jesus, and not all of it is very life affirming, is it? Those people are not in love with the party Jesus who made the good wine. Those people, they really like the pious Virgin Mary, but most definitely not party mom Mary, who told everyone that she not only knew her boy was a drink spiker, but she was in on it. We don't hear about that Mary very much. But this is what Jesus chose to do first as a minister. The very first miracle is how it's touted in scripture. It was to get the attention of the friends who became his disciples and followed him to his grave and maintained their loyalty even to their own demise. He chose to first let them see him as a miracle worker by turning some water into wine so that people could have a really good time. And let me tell you, this was not a really good time for partying very hard for most of the people in the land where Jesus lived. Do you remember, those of you who know Christian scripture a little bit, and many of us in Unitarian Universalism do, because many of us came out of Christian traditions. But do you remember that story about how Jesus got so angry one time about crooked bankers and loan sharks who were preying upon people who had been lied to about the kind of sacrifices God required? He got so mad that he walked right into the temple where they were exploiting the poor and started kicking over their tables and calling them a brood of vipers. Remember that? Well, that was already percolating in his activist mind at this party, because you know when it happened? Next. It's the very next notable thing that Jesus did after his debut as the one to watch at the Cana wedding. I read you through verse 11 of the 2nd chapter of John, and in verse 12, he sleeps it off for a few days. And then in verse 13, he heads to Jerusalem, where the next thing he does is what I just described: breaks some furniture and makes some enemies. So the point being, Jesus wasn't living in a time of peace and love and joy when he decided that his first act of God was going to be helping people have a really good time. It was right in the middle of a fierce fight for justice. It was right in the middle of his people being persecuted and lied to by the Roman government and being gaslighted and fed fake news right in the temple, right in the public square. Jesus wasn't preaching a prosperity gospel or telling everyone that if they just said affirmations and pulled themselves up by the bootstraps and tried a little harder, things would get better. No, Jesus didn't have a signature Walmart collection of live, laugh, love, throw pillows, and hand towels. He wasn't that kind of a prophet. But I believe that what he did know was the secret of the oxygen mask. You know, that thing that the flight attendants always say when we're all not really listening? The thing about how in case of an air pressure change in the cabin, the laws of nature don't care how much you love your kids or your grandma or your spouse or your dog. If you don't put on your own oxygen mask first, you're going to pass out and be of no use to them. So do that self-care thing first, because it really is the opposite of selfish. Listen, the miracle of the turning water into wine has been commentaried to death by theologians across a spectrum of beliefs across time. There are a lot of deep thoughts about what it all meant. You know, maybe one of them's right, probably, I guess. But no more right than this one thing I know for sure. Joy matters. Your joy matters. Our collective joy matters. We're learning this, I think, in a way that we haven't seen in a long time during this political campaign. There's a lot of talk of joy. That's new to me. I've not seen that before, and I find it exciting. If joy ever matters at one time more than another, maybe it matters the most when it is the most inconvenient thing to work toward. Maybe because we know that the time of the table kicking is well upon us. We can know that the time to be uninhibited at the party sometimes ought to come first. Maybe when Jesus said to his mom, "But my time has not yet come," maybe she pulled him close and said, "Oh, my baby boy, maybe it's not what you had planned, but son, the world is happening around you anyway, and I'm worried for you because I know you. And I know you're not going to stay out of this mess while people are being harmed. That's not who you are. But tonight I'm here at a party with my beloved son. And dang it, Jesus, just be here now and have a good time with your mom and your friends, will ya?" And so that's what he did. And so can we. Even now, even when genocide is happening right now to our beloved human family again. Even when we are reading political manifestos that look and act and walk a whole lot like fascism in our beloved nation. Even when your beloved congregation is facing a big change in the middle of even bigger changes that our nation faces, and we're too exhausted by it all to even try to think about what's next. Maybe don't. Maybe it's time to stop and crank up the joyful music. Jeremy Berlin knows how to do joyful music. I already know that. Maybe it's time to just stop, crank up the music, and be with the people you love and have a really, really fun freaking party. Come on, just for now. Just for now, because the temple will be there for you when you're rested enough for the table kicking. I promise it still will. But if your friends and if your family are right here, right now, in your happy place, I heard you saying, remember that this moment happens once, only once this moment. And these are the things for which we rise up to power anyway, are they not? If we do not fight for joy, then what is the point? The pursuit of happiness wasn't just a frivolous thing that sounded poetic to stick into our nation's Declaration of Independence on a whim. People have apparently always thought it was worthy of our greatest efforts. I do too. So while this sermon isn't the deepest theological exegesis of a miracle of Christ that anyone will ever hear, that's okay. Because I don't care. I don't care if you think I'm deep or smart or spiritual. Right now, I care about telling you that I believe sometimes the first order of business is to blow some minds with how much fun life can be when you suspend disbelief and leave your worries at the door when it is time to fully surrender, even just for a night, to joy. May we try it more often. May we know that we will be stronger for the fight that awaits us when we first surrender to joy. And then May we just friggin' do it already. That's it. I'm done. Thank you.